Hi everybody, this is AnaRina Kreisman from Jerusalem, aligned with Zion, and just sharing a little bit more with you again. This one might be a little bit longer, but we have a few things to run through on. So we got a few inquiries on what are the 7 weeks of consolation. I would like to dip into that. And also we would like to discuss a little bit more of what happens now after Tisha B'Av, and obviously running towards Rosh Hashanah. And you can already see the connection between that because there are 7 weeks running up to Rosh Hashanah. Just a quick reminder to all our viewers that Align with Zion is a Jewish Orthodox project. We are not Messianic, we are not Christian, but we gladly share with all those who are feeling that there is an awakening in understanding Jerusalem and Israel, the Jewish people, the timings of God, the cycles and all those things. And we just so happy to share with you guys all these things. So let's just dip right in. The 7 weeks of consolation, where does it come from? Firstly, we have, when just after Tisha B'Av, we start to read the Haftarah. Now, for those who don't know what that is, every Shabbat we are on a cycle the whole year where we read the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, but we also always read from the prophets and from the writings, from the rest of the side of the Bible, the Tanakh, something that's connected to what happened in the Parsha of the Torah that we read. So we always read usually from the prophets. So the Shabbat just after Tisha B'Av, we start the cycle of the 7 consolations, and these are 7 constellations for Jerusalem, because we just mourned tremendously the loss of both temples. So the first week kicking off the consolation start, and all these Haftarot is connected to the prophet Isaiah, and he speaks about how God will comfort Zion and Jerusalem and what will happen in the future. And guess what's happening already, because we living here in Jerusalem, we can see so much of what has been promised already. That's why we know that we are going into exciting times, but sometimes also difficult times. But if you can position yourself in there with God, understanding what He expects from you, you will be safe. So let's try and figure out what that means. So first we have the 7 weeks running from Tisha B'Av, the first Shabbat, up to Rosh Hashanah, exactly 7 weeks. Is that happenstance? Absolutely not. Nothing is by chance when it comes to God's work. Now, what do we see when we read this part? And the first one starts in Isaiah 40, where it says, Nachamu, Nachamu. That basically means console, comfort my people. I'm just going to adjust a little bit here because it looks like we're a little bit skew and I don't want you guys to get drunk. Okay, so comfort my people. Why twice? Why do we have to see that twice? Remember that there were 2 temples that burned down, but there are other reasons as well. The Jewish sages give us a few reasons. The first one is, let the heavens above comfort Jerusalem, let those below comfort Jerusalem. So we know that there is comfort from above. God already speaks comforting words to Jerusalem, as we can see in Zechariah 1. But we also, from our part, we need to speak that comfort. We have to speak the word of God into being, because that is what this is for. We have to remind Jerusalem of these promises, and also that these promises are, and these prophecies are coming true, as we can see here in Israel. Right, the other one is, let the living comfort her. Let the dead comfort her. This is very difficult. But something else that I would like to share with you is, when somebody passes, when a Jewish person passes away and we have to go for 7 days to sit Shiva with the family, the first thing that we say is that God will comfort you within the sha'ar, within those who remain, that are mourning for Jerusalem and for Zion, for the remnant. So as you are mourning this person's death, which is not death, we know it is life on a different form, but as you mourn this loss of this person, may God comfort you in the same way that He's comforting those who keep on mourning for Jerusalem and for Zion, for Zion. What does that mean? Why Jerusalem and Zion? Aren't these things the same concept? Yes and no. Jerusalem, we know sometimes when it's referred directly as Jerusalem, that's the earthly Jerusalem. Zion is the heavenly Jerusalem, but Zion is also connected to the earthly Jerusalem, but it is also the people. Zion, Bat Zion, that's my second name, AnaRina Bat Zion. But Zion is also the daughter of Zion. Zion also represents the Jewish people as they are in the diaspora right now, and as they are coming back, as we see a tremendous wave of people now coming back as well and living here in Israel. So that's between the living and the dead. Then we have, may they be comforted in this world and in the world to come. It means in this place where we are living right now, and also that which will happen after the times of Mashiach in the world to come. Then we have another one which is very important for me, and the sages say here, may there be consolation for her, for the 10 tribes and for Judah. Wow, there you have it. Even the Jewish sages speak about the 10 tribes and Judah. Again, we need to understand what this means, because there were 2 kingdoms, and I want to go into that because that brings us also now further to the next thing that's going to happen, and that's going to happen tomorrow on Tu B'Av, which is the 15th of Av. It's always a release, a relief that comes during Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is an extremely, extremely important date on the Jewish calendar. For us, it is the Valentine's Day, the love day in all of the Jewish calendar, because that is the time also when Benjamin was taken back into Israel. If you read the book of Judges, you will see that the whole book ends with a terrible story where the tribe of Benjamin did something terrible. I don't even want to mention it, you can go and read it. And because of that, they were isolated from the rest of Israel, which is terrible, because Israel cannot move if Israel are not unified in a union, in a unity. So we can also see even the elders of those days were very worried about what was going on. They say, oy vavoy, we have a whole tribe that will disappear. But we also said that we will not help these guys because of the terrible thing that happened in their ranks. How are we going to fix it? And then you read about how they send the daughters into the vineyards, and the tribe of Benjamin could take wives. That happens on Tu B'Av. That happened on Tu B'Av, and it is a festival that happened before this whole thing with Benjamin, because they used that festival to reconnect one tribe back into the tribal confederation of Israel. And it is a time when the girls in the old days, in the ancient days, they would go into the vineyards with white dresses and they will dance. In that time, the men would come and amazing matches will be made, and many would get married because of that. And even here in Israel, that whole tradition has been, that whole festival, not a tradition, it's a festival, has been revived as we see women going to dance in the vineyards in that time. It's beautiful if you ever want to go and visit Shiloh on Tu B'Av. So this is what happens, but more of this happened. We can see therefore that Tu B'Av is a place where reunification takes place, guys. How much more do we need to say again? Nothing moves forward in this world if we do not see a unified Israel. That's why it's so difficult of what's happening in the politics right now in the government. Yes, we have a government. No, it's splitting apart already. We see already rumors of something that this government is still not holding, and there's also a reason for that, because on a much deeper level, there is a unification taking place, and it has to do with the true governance and kingdom of what God is bringing about again, of which the Ramchal, one of the tremendous rabbi, speaks of. But okay, so on Tu B'Av, what also happened on Tu B'Av? We also know that, and this brings me back to the tribes and the two houses. After Solomon, the houses split, the kingdom split into two houses. And Yerovam, the king of Ephraim, decided to move away from Judah and Benjamin. Terrible thing that happened there, because Rehoboam, the king of Judah, didn't take good advice. And when they wanted to see if they can take by force back the 10 tribes, God said, stop, go back to your houses. This thing is of God. You cannot stop it. We see this a few times in the Bible where God says, go back. This is from God. You cannot stop this. So it started a negative cycle where Yerovam then decided that he is going to split the kingdom. And in order to consolidate that, he had to make sure that people don't come back to Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is the heart. He cut off the 10 tribes from the heart, from Jerusalem. What did he do? He placed barriers, and he made sure that nobody can come through. The 10 tribes could not come and worship anymore. The 10 tribes then dipped into something else. What did Yerovam do? Listen very, very carefully. He changed the times. He created a new festival exactly a month later after Pesach. Wow. Same kind of Chag or festival, but completely in the incorrect time. He changed the times. He replaced Jerusalem. How did he replace Jerusalem? He placed idols in Dan and Beersheba so that the people can go to their backyards. He said, guys, you don't need Jerusalem. I'm putting up 2 new Jerusalems for you. You just go to Dan, you go to Beersheba, you go and worship there. A new place of worship, your new Jerusalem, at a new time, your new feast, Israel. And you cannot come to Jerusalem because I'm putting in barriers so that you cannot come. And from there, the 10 tribes started, he brainwashed them all the time into something completely different. Luckily, there was one king at the end of the kingdom of Israel, where Hoshea ben Elah, the last king of the 10 tribes, decided, you know what? This is not right. They have to come back to Jerusalem. And on Tu B'Av, he lifted the barriers so that the people can come back. This is very important, guys, because the barriers are lifted so that the people can come back to Jerusalem. But our sages teach us that God was very unhappy with him. Why? Listen to the wisdom of God. Listen to the heart of God here. This king had a tremendously good intention. He said, let them come back. But what happened? God said, you know what? You lifted the barriers now. The barriers being put in place, that responsibility I'm going to take from Yerovam, from Jeroboam, because he decided to completely cut off the 10 tribes from Jerusalem and from the kingship of Judah. But that terrible thing is resting on his shoulders. Now, centuries later, when Israel cannot think for themselves, when the house of Israel cannot think for themselves anymore, they are worshipping idols. They replace Jerusalem. They have new festivals. Now you lift the barriers. Now they have to come back, because it is the responsibility of all Israel to worship in Jerusalem, but they cannot remember. They do not know. They have amnesia. So what happens now is the responsibility to come back to Jerusalem shifts to the shoulders of every 10 triber. But they don't even know that they are supposed to do this. And that's why Hoshea ben Elah was the last king of the house of Israel. Because after that, the Assyrians came and they exiled Israel. Because Israel, the house of Israel, the 10 tribes, were completely inundated within idolatry. They worshipped God in a deviant way. They didn't really remember Jerusalem. If I forget you, Jerusalem. They completely forgot Jerusalem, and more than that, they changed the festivals and the times. So here you can see what Daniel also speaks about. When somebody will come and change the times and anything that will completely veer you off, just like a little bit like that, out from what you are supposed to do. The 10 tribes got exiled. But guys, we are going to celebrate Tu B'Av again, because the barriers are lifted. And right now, it's not just the Jewish people that can come back to Jerusalem. It is also those who believe that they are part of the 10 tribes. More than that, it is anybody that believes that Jerusalem plays a pivotal role in God's governance, because ultimately the world is going to come back to Jerusalem. We know this because God says, my house is a house of prayer for all nations. And again, we see this in Zechariah 14 again, where the nations will have to come up. The barriers are lifted. Now we can also say that how is this possible right now? Because Corona is making it impossible. Maybe the barriers are just there to get you to think about why you cannot get in right now. Maybe the barriers are also there to sort out Judah, the Jewish people within Israel, and God is purging and cleaning the land. He's taking, remember what we said, there's a massive reboot happening here in Israel, in the world. God is shaking everything. He's putting everything in isolation. It means He is dismantling everything. Because if you dismantle something, you can remove the stuff that should not be there, so that you can then put the true union together. And this is what's happening. So while people are outside and they're getting frustrated and they're saying, why can't we come in? You have to be with me in a consciousness about Tu B'Av, where you're going to ask Hashem, where you're going to ask God, if the barriers are in place, on Tu B'Av, millennia ago, you lifted the barriers on Tu B'Av so that Israel can come back, the house of Israel, the 10 tribes. So this time I'm asking you, what are the things that I still do that keeps me out of Israel, that I cannot be united with the Jewish people, with Judah? Is it idol worship? Is it doing the Chagim or the festivals in a way that it should not be done? What are the things that are keeping you? Go on a personal journey and in prayer with God, so that your personal barriers towards Jerusalem can be lifted. And in this, let's start with an awareness of Jerusalem. Start putting your heart back. You know, the rabbis teach us that even if you are traveling and you cannot turn your head towards Jerusalem, you have to turn your heart towards Jerusalem wherever you are. The best is, like Daniel, to focus on Jerusalem, so that you can actually have your intentions back to that place, to this place, to Zion, to the place where heaven touches earth, to the place where the temple will be built again, to the place of God's footstool in this world. We are getting to this, and I'm going to share this more in the time when we reach the month of Elul, which will be in 2 weeks. If I forget you, Jerusalem, Psalms 137, may I lose my right hand. May I forget my right hand. May my right hand lose its ability. What is your right hand? That's your ability to work. How many people are losing their jobs right now in this? My question is, every day, are you remembering Jerusalem? Are you replacing it with a new Jerusalem, a different Jerusalem? There is only one Jerusalem. It is the Jerusalem in the land that God chose for the Jewish people. It is called Yerushalayim. And it's connected to a heavenly Jerusalem. Yes, there is a heavenly Jerusalem. We discussed this already, guys. Go to YouTube, On a Line with Zion. Go to all our podcasts and go learn about this and connect yourself and put your matspun, your compass, back to Jerusalem every single day when you pray, because that word stands. If I forget you, Jerusalem, my right hand is gonna wither, or it's just things are just gonna fall apart around me. And also it says, if I do not put Jerusalem above my highest joy, where is Jerusalem in your consciousness on a daily basis? I want to do this also. You know that in Align with Zion, when you go to our shop on alignwithzion.com, you will see that we have the Zion script. Give me 2 seconds, it's right here. I just want to actually show you the Zion script, because I got such a special scribe to make this for us. And let me just get it out here for you guys to see it, because this is so important. This is called the Zion script. And the Zion script is actually a script written by a scribe here in Jerusalem. And it says on the script here, there we go. I think it's going to appear the wrong way around on your screens, but it says Zion. Zion is Zion. But it also, the whole word here says Ziyun, which is a marker. What is a marker? God says, when you return, set up markers for yourself so that you know your way back. So we have the Zion script, made in Jerusalem, blessed here in Jerusalem. I want you to get one of these, put it up on your wall, to the wall in your home that faces Jerusalem, so when you pray, you know in which direction you pray, so that you can put your consciousness and your awareness in these times. Guys, the world is gonna change. We have a little bit of a breather on to be of. We can just catch your breath again before we go into the true judgment days coming on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, up to the end of Sukkot. Where are you going to be in those days? Where is your heart going to be? Where is your focus going to be? Make sure it's on Jerusalem. Make sure you understand that on Tu B'Av, on the 15th of Av, which will fall this year on Wednesday, that you say to God, lift the barriers in my heart towards Jerusalem, which is in the heart of the world, so that I can come back, so that I can at least focus and have my awareness to these things. I want to send you tremendous blessings from Zion. I want to send you encouragement from Jerusalem. Guys, keep on going. Keep on asking God in your personal prayer times, what is it that you want from me? How can I align myself, calibrate myself even more with you? And together we're gonna figure this thing out. So in our next session, I will discuss Elul, because there's something, a very, very important prophecy that goes together with that. And it's also something very specific that you can do. Shalom, shalom from Jerusalem.